Hello and welcome to Protect Ukraine Now YouTube channel. Biden's presidency is ending, and so is ending our campaign aimed at pressuring this administration to deliver all weapons under the remaining PDA authority. This is something President Biden promised to Ukraine, the American people, and everyone else on September 26th of last year. There are many potentially debatable things we could have asked Biden to do for Ukraine, but we made it simple for him. We only insisted that he sticks to his own promise. That's as simple as it gets. But President Biden lied. Just like he lied when he promised 5 Patriot batteries for Ukraine in June of the last year during the NATO summit. As far as I know, Ukraine has received only 2 Patriot batteries since then. Just like he lied a year ago when he said he can't transfer any weapons to Ukraine unless Congress passes a new bill. Ukraine was left without any weapons from the US for 3 months, from January to April of last year. During all that time, President Biden had $4 billion in PDA authority available to him to continue assisting Ukraine. But he chose to play politics and blame the delay in weapons transfers on Congress. In April of 2024, Congress did pass a new supplemental bill for Ukraine, but that created no sense of urgency for Mr. Biden to ramp up aid flow to Ukraine. Biden continued to sit on resources that were made available to him and provided only small droplets of military aid about twice a month. President Biden ends his term in office with $5.8 billion in unrealized PDA authority. For a reference, this is roughly what Ukraine has received during the year 2024. In other words, last year, Biden could have provided Ukraine with twice as much weapons. Twice as much. During the past 3 years of this devastating war, Biden could have provided Ukraine with much more and better quality weapons, and he could have done it much faster. But he did not, and this is going to be his legacy. Guys, I would like to remind everyone that your likes and comments help more people to see this video. That's how YouTube algorithms work. I appreciate your help in getting more people involved in standing with Ukraine. However, I'm not recording this video to complain about Biden. We have a new administration coming in, and it's important to review lessons learned as we chart the path forward. At Protect Ukraine Now, our goal is, and always has been, to gather on this channel people who would like to engage in doing things for Ukraine. So we always must look forward to the next task. Let me start with showing you a post from Congressman Don Bacon of District 2 in Nebraska that recently caught my attention on X. By the way, Congressman Don Bacon has always been a great supporter of Ukraine. So those of you in District 2 of Nebraska, let me tell you, you guys are in good hands. So here's what the congressman wrote on December 16. The most recent poll by Reagan Defense Forum shows 75% of Americans consider Ukraine our ally, while 80% consider Russia our enemy. Russia invaded a sovereign nation and recently tried to bomb several commercial airliners. Americans have moral clarity. End quote. So, yes, Americans indeed have moral clarity, as 75% of them view Ukraine as an ally. And that's, by the way, 248 million people. 80% of Americans view Russia as an enemy. That's 265 million of Americans that have moral clarity and see Russia for what it is. At the same time, the Biden administration managed to underdeliver on their promise to provide Ukraine with proper military support. In fact, less than half of the announced aid is in Ukraine at the moment. In absolute numbers, Ukraine has received a little more than 30 billion worth of weapons since the beginning of the full-scale invasion in 2022. The aid was delivered late. Each new type of weapon Ukraine had to beg for months before permission to transfer was granted. Much of equipment has arrived in poor condition and had to be repaired before Ukrainians could use it. All aid was spread thin over time. So at no point Ukrainian armed forces could accumulate enough resources for a decisive action. That has happened because most of 248 million of Americans who support Ukraine have trusted the Biden administration to do the right thing. They simply hoped that the leader of the free world would actually do what he says. And they also believed the media that bounced around numbers and information that simply was not true. And this is a lesson learned. We cannot simply trust this or the next one or any other White House administration that is yet to follow. We must be clear of our expectations for our government. We must hold our elected officials accountable. We need to be writing them letters and emails. We need to be calling them. We need to be meeting with them in person, which is not hard at all. We need to follow up on everything we expect them to be doing. I really hope this lesson is learned because Ukrainian soldiers and civilians have paid for these lessons with their lives. Every time you see a building destroyed, every time you see a military funeral, every time you see a smiling photo of a child who is no longer alive because of Russian missile that killed him, this is because of insufficient air defense or other critical weapons that were promised but not provided. I'm recording this video on a day after yet another devastating attack on civilians in Ukraine. This tragedy happened in Kryvyi Rih. The man on the photo is Igor Stepanenko, who lost his first wife and father to Russian bombings in Kherson. He moved to Kryvyi Rih with his kids, remarried, and yesterday he lost his second wife to yet another attack by this terrorist state labeled on the map as Russia. This violence, this circle of death is going to continue unless it is stopped. This evil is not going to run out of fuel anytime soon. It must be confronted with force. This is the only language they understand. The only kind of peace that is possible in Ukraine is peace through strength. There are many things that can be done in order to achieve that. If you live in the United States, regardless of your immigration status, your main job is advocacy. I also want to sum up the campaign we ran with a help from UCARE, Dignitas, UCCA, Ukraine Congress Committee of America, Blue Yellow, and of course, you, our viewers. We started the campaign on December 7th of last year, and we're ending it now. Since then, we have delivered almost 38,000 letters via fax to key stakeholders in Biden administration, Pentagon, and Congress. That's about 863 letters a day or 36 letters in an hour, non-stop. We know we were heard because we have received a feedback from some congressional offices we are in touch with. And here's what we have accomplished. Over 3 billion of the 9 billion in available weapons at the time Biden made his announcement have been transferred to Ukraine. The American public now knows that 5.8 billion in Presidential Drawdown Authority remains available to immediately provide critical support to Ukraine. Both the current and the next administrations and the people of Ukraine are aware of these resources, and this lays a groundwork in ensuring the aid to Ukraine continues in the future. Of course, the number of participants in the campaign we're now concluding does not reflect the 75% or 248 million Americans that we know view Ukraine as an ally. But we're going to work further on bridging this gap. I would like to thank you for each and every one of these submissions. I know you are tired. We are all tired. I know you're anxious about what's next for Ukraine and in general. And what's next is there is a new sheriff in town. A lot of talks are taking place at the moment, and they are controversial, disappointing, and even irritating. Not everything we hear sounds optimistic. However, the truth of the matter is Trump and his administration are still forming their opinion on strategy regarding the Russian-Ukrainian war. The best we can do at the moment is show unity and support for Ukraine. I would like to remind you of rallies and other pro-Ukraine events that took place in 2022, right after the big war broke out. I would like to remind you of the overwhelming amount of news and other media coverage dedicated to Ukraine. That was truly an unprecedented amount of support. That was something President Biden and other Western leaders simply couldn't ignore. They had to start helping Ukraine regardless of their true intentions, political and economic incentives, and whatever else consideration they may have had. And this is something we must repeat for President Trump. If you don't call his White House, if you don't send him letters, then you haven't done your part and you can't complain about the current situation, whatever it is going to be. Concluding this video, here are the takeaways. American public supporting Ukraine must meet President Trump with the same level of support for Ukraine as it was done for President Biden in February of 2022. And don't tell me this is difficult or impossible. What's difficult is to be at the front line for 3 years. Difficult is to bury friends and family. Difficult is when your neighbor is a terrorist state. Making phone calls, sending letters, and attending rallies is easy. Second, our job doesn't stop when the White House is making satisfactory commitments and statements. This is not enough, and we must hold our elected officials accountable every time. This is how democracy is intended to work, and this is the only way it can work. If you want to live in a democracy, you must take part in it. Thank you for taking part in our PDA campaign. Thank you for watching and sharing this video with your friends and family. Please stay tuned to the announcements of our next call to action. Until the next time.